Look out, look out. Once again, it's your boy Ashy Knuckles in transit. I'm sure I got all my shit, man. In transit. About to do a real quick video on Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ricardo Nunez. The fight will be happening this weekend, and Gervonta will be making a defense of his WBA World Super Featherweight Championship. All right, Gervonta Tank Davis, man, by far one of the most talented fighters in the sport of boxing today. The crop of young talent in the sport today is outstanding to look at. Salute right back to you, Robert Stewart. Gervonta Tank Davis being signed with Mayweather Promotions has been moved quite well, I would say. Out of all the people that were a part of the money team, Tank Davis would be a bright spot in terms of the fighters that Floyd has associated himself with. There's a couple of others I could think of too, but right now, as far as championship status, Tank Davis is at the helm, leading the way. And when you look at him, you know why. I mean, this guy, being 24 years old, has been around the sport of boxing since he was about 5 years old, compiling a 205 win, amateur wins, and 15 losses. Racking up victories, racking up amateur championships, silver gloves, golden gloves, PAL championships, you name it. You know, he's been a part of it. I think pretty much the only thing he hasn't done as an amateur is become an Olympian. And that's not like they give those out at the door. You know what I'm saying? Some fighters have all the potential in the world to become an Olympian, and they don't wait around for it. Sometimes they be like, you know what, screw it, I'm going pro. Well, anyway, Tank Davis is pro, and in his first 20 some odd fights, I believe it's 22 fights, maybe 21 fights, 20 knockouts, only one fight going to the distance. He's been fighting quite well, and like I said, he's a young guy, and I for a minute, I thought he was going to be another talented fighter to blow his opportunities, and it doesn't look like it's going that direction. I was a bit worried for a moment, but I think he got it all under control now. And what I mean is, he's on the fast track to stardom. One, he got the look, he got the the amateur pedigree, he got something that you can sell in the sport of boxing, which is the knockout punch. You can sell the knockout punch, and the one thing Floyd did for him, besides, getting him like cars and stuff like that before he's really made his mark in the sport, is he gave him exposure. What's up, Haplotype? He gave him exposure, and what I mean by that is Tank has had the benefit of being on undercards where a large audience has had the opportunity to see him fight. And that's pretty much what you need when you have all those gifts that he has, is to get him where he can be seen, which is something that's not just given to fighters. Well, he was given that opportunity because Floyd was must-see TV in his time. If you go by the statistics and the ratings and the amount of money that he made and the amount of pay-per-view fights that he sold. So Tank can very well be the very next star in the sport of boxing. I wouldn't doubt it. In fact, I definitely see it for him. All he got to do is keep his head on straight and keep stretching these guys. He's gonna be just fine. When you look at him fight, he does basically everything very well when he's not, fighting out of character like he did when he lost his title on the scales to Fonseca. But when he got his head on right and he's focused, fundamentally, I mean, he does a lot of stuff right. I mean, he does have a good jab, but it seemed like over time, as the fight progresses, he relies a lot on his natural abilities and his gifts. because he will time your jab and come over the top of it, or he will allow you to come after him. Because a lot of flaws that other fighters have is that they can't fight going backwards or can't fight on the back foot. And he can do that. In fact, he even counters very well going backwards as well as forwards, whether he's countering to the head or to the body. And he can dictate the fight whether he wants to go to the head or the body. He's a young champion that doesn't mind mixing up his attack, and I love that about him. Because even though he is a power puncher, he's not a headhunter. He will mix his attack up to the head and to the body. And one of his best punches is that counter uppercut. It's the left uppercut. That may be his favorite punch, because he get guys out of there with that punch. But Tank Davis just happened to be a fighter that has power in both hands, so he can get you out with basically any punch that he throws when he chooses to sit down on it. So in this fight with Ricardo Nunez, he's in with a guy who has some similarities. There are two Ricardo Nunezes that I know about. They may even be related. I don't know. They're both from Panama, but this particular Ricardo Nunez is like 21-2 with 19 KOs. He's on a 10-fight win streak since 2014 when he lost, and he's going for a world title. Outside of that, it's not really much more that I know about him, except for the fact that him and Tank size up pretty evenly as far as their dimensions. Tank being 5'5", I believe Ricardo Nunez is like 5'6". So other than that, I really don't see anything out of the unknown as to why Tank would have anything to worry about. Most people would say Tank is roughly untested, and I beg to differ with that, because he fought Jose Pedraza at 130 pounds, and Pedraza had more height than Tank. He had more reach than Tank. He had more experience than Tank at the time. He was 22-0, and he was 22-0, and he was the champion. And even though I believe he fought Tank using the wrong game plan, he tried to put that heat on Tank, and I think Tank prevailed quite nicely. Pedraza has a good jab. He has decent skills, and he tried to just press Tank out, to which that would be a recipe for disaster. Maybe he thought Tank's power was just all hype, but it would turn out that Tank's power would put him on his ass and get his title collected from him, the IBF super featherweight strap. But the reason why I know Tank has been tested is because who Pedraza continued to fight moving forward. He would move on to lightweight and win a world title against one of the toughest guys in the lower, Ray Beltran. Ray Beltran gives everybody the fucking blues. He brings the fight to everybody, and Pedraza beat him. So if Pedraza can beat Ray Beltran, then Pedraza has to be some sort of tough fighter. You know what I'm saying? Because there ain't no powder puff beating Ray Beltran, especially for a world title, because he's been chasing straps for a long time, seemingly being ducked or coming up short in some capacity. At the same time, Pedraza would go on and have a unification with Lomachenko. And even though he lost that fight, he gave Lomachenko a very, very tough fight. Pedraza didn't give Tank Davis the type of fight that he gave Lomachenko, so that has to give us some idea of just how tough Tank Davis is. Now, of course, if fighter A beats fighter B, it doesn't mean fighter A can beat fighter C, and I'm not saying that. And of course, I would love to see Tank Davis fight Lomachenko. I would love to see that fight. But I'm just saying, in terms of him being tested, I think the writing is on the wall. He has been tested, So I don't think there's no need to baby him. Go ahead and start matching him tough. Pending victory this particular weekend. This weekend being, I would imagine, a showcase fight. Tank fighting in Baltimore, which is his hometown. And he hadn't had a fight in Baltimore since like his fourth outing as a professional. And I think he should put on. A lot of the good, talented fighters of today are fighting in their hometowns. Hopefully, Tank don't let it get to his head, and he goes in there and handles business without fighting out of character. I think he's a little bit more disciplined now. He showed undisciplined now. He showed undisciplined behavior earlier when he won his first world title by failing to make weight, and I believe his first title defense of the IBF strap. And that defense would come on a Mayweather-McGregor undercard where there was a large audience. Well, he didn't perform to the best of his ability, but he still got Fonseca out of there. And kudos to him for that. And Fonseca, I believe, was undefeated, as well as Pedraza was undefeated. So it's not like he's just fighting straight powder puffs. But I thought that was a blown opportunity because, like I said, you could sell the knockout punch. And even though he won via KO, it wasn't the type of stoppage or the type of KO that I had people reeling for days. You know what I'm saying? The guy kind of got hit on the back of his neck, and he just didn't get up, after going down. So, and Tank really didn't fight a fundamental fight that fight either, man. He was fighting with his hands down. I mean, he just didn't look like a seasoned pro. But since then, he been fighting like a seasoned professional. And he can do it all, man. He's a southpaw fighter, power in both hands. He got a good jab. He has a low center of gravity, being so short, and he's not the easiest guy to hit. And for a young 24-year-old fighter, he exudes a level of comfort in there that is rarely seen by young champions. He can also lead with the straight left. He also can lead with the lead hooks. He also has a good counter hook. He just does a whole lot of things well, man. And I think in this particular fight, depending on how tough the dude is, he may put more of what he can do on display for everybody to see, and that would be cool. But if he is to win this particular match against Ricardo Nunez, who I would suspect is not coming to lose, I would like to see Tank possibly but have like a unification match with the military guy, the Jamel Herring, who just won a world title strap at 130, being unsuccessful. A world title strap at 130, being unsuccessful at 135. He was undefeated before he lost to Ladarius Miller, Memphis, the guy who's on the money team. Pretty good fighter, Memphis Miller. So he would drop down in weight, and he won strap at 130 pounds. Or maybe he can finally meet up with his rival at 130 pounds in Tevin Farmer and win back the belt that he vacated on the scales, which is the IBF title. And he would be a unified champ if he is to win those fights. Or the guy from Mexico, Miguel, I can never say his last name, Merchelt, I can't say it. Y'all know who I'm talking about, the champion from Mexico. Excuse me. Either one of those fights or all three of those fights would be awesome for Tank. Most recently, I see that Leo Santa Cruz has called out Tank Davis. Leo Santa Cruz being a several-time world champion. I think he's unified right now at a featherweight. Solid fighter. And he wants to try his hand at Tank Davis. That's another fight I would like to see. I would have liked to see Leo Santa Cruz, like Junior the Truth said it earlier today. I would have loved to have seen Santa Cruz face Gary Russell Jr., but on the same token, Gary Russell Jr. is like one of the most inactive champions that we've seen in a long time. And it's like he fights only once a year. So, his name is really not ringing out like Tank's name is ringing out. So I don't know what to say more about that, but still I would love to see Gary Russell and Leo Santa Cruz. But at the same time, Gary Russell Jr. has also called out Tank Davis. So that's another fight I would like to see. Both of those guys would have to move up in weight in order to make that fight a reality, and we'll just have to see what happens on that note. But going back to what I was saying about some guys saying that Tank hasn't been tested, here's another fight that Tank was supposed to be a part of, and that's the fight with Abner Mares. I was salivating when they made this fight. I thought that would have been explosive because we already know Mares comes to fight. I think he was a Mexican Olympian, Mares, and he's a multi-division champion. And one thing Mares does, no matter what you think or what you think about him as a fighter or what anybody says about him, is that Mares is going to come to do it. And I think we would have actually saw a guy possibly push Tank, but I'm not sure if that probably would have ended up well for him too, because Tank got stones in his hands. So I don't think the power is a hype job. I think his power is real. And for a boxer puncher, it's not like he's just looking to set guys up for one punch. You know what I'm saying? He will put his punches together. A lot of times he is throwing one punch at a time, which is fine as long as you mix up your attack. Send a variety of different shots, you know. Just don't be a one-trick pony, you know. Because he will counter to the body with a straight, counter to the body with hooks, counter to the body with uppercuts, and same way to the head. Sometimes he not going to lead with his southpaw jab. Sometimes he going to lead with the straight left. You know, he'll lean in and look at you. Next thing you know, boom, you done got hit. So I really like this guy. This is Ashley's guy, Ashley's Corner. If y'all ever go to Ashley's Corner, check her out. She does really good breakdowns. But you know how it is. You go to her videos, you go to my videos, anybody that deal with Ashley Knuckles, check your feelings at the door. You know what I'm saying? We're going to call it how we see it. Give it how we know how to give it. It's going to come out, whether you like it or not. You disagree, leave a comment. Make sure it has merit, you know? That's all I ask. I don't need everybody to agree with me, you know what I'm saying? But make your points, make it valid. But Tank, even though he's like 24 years old, I think he's been getting the right seasoning. I know I said that before, but I'm gonna expand on that. I mean, he's a two-time world champion, right? He's been on pay-per-views. He's also been the co-main event on pay-per-views, right? He was on Adrian Broner's undercard when Adrian Broner fought Jesse Vargas. So you know one thing about Broner's fights is that it's always a large viewership. So Tank has fought some tough guys. He's fought undefeated champions, right? He's fought southpaws like himself. He's fought a whole bunch of right-handers. You know, he has this big-time amateur experience. And you know, he's just making another defense of his title. So, like I said, I think they're moving him quite handily, man. If there was ever a time to start matching them tougher, I think now would be the time. And I think as we move forward, we'll get a chance to see Tank lined up with some top-notch competition. Like I said before, they were already about to sign him to fight Abner Mares, and Abner Mares had to pull out of that fight hurt. But that's nothing you can blame Tank about. He signed that contract. He went to camp. He was ready. You know what I'm saying? So whether the fight in the future is against Loma, or if it's against Santa Cruz, or if it's against Gary Russell Jr., Tevin Farmer, Jamil Herring, Miguel M. from Mexico, the champion. I can never say his name right. There are a lot of great fights on the horizon for Tank Davis. Like I said, I really, truly believe this guy's going to be a star fighter. So, other than that, that's all I got for you. I can't break down Ricardo Nunez too much because I haven't seen too much of him. So what I told you about him is what I know about him. But primarily, this video is about Tank Davis and, you know, the things that he does well. And you know, if you want to know more about him, I would go to Ashley's Corner. You know, she's from that area, and I think she know the whole scoop on Tank, you know. So Other than that, man, I appreciate y'all for stopping in, hollering at your boy Ash. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit the notification bell. As you can see, I'm busy doing these videos again. I'm gonna keep popping them out. As long as y'all watch them, I'll keep popping them out. And shit, that's all I got, man. Until next time, man. It's your boy Ashy Knuckles. Shout out to the LDBC and anybody that fucks with Ashy Knuckles. I'ma holler.